Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei
Welcome. Thank you for being here this evening for this Kol Nidre service. What a gift it is to gather as a community. A special welcome to you if this is your first time at Interfaith Families Project. We hope that you feel at home here. I want to take a moment to introduce those of us who are leading this evening's service. My name is Reverend Samantha Gonzalez-Block, and I have the privilege of serving as IFFP's interim Christian leader. I'm an ordained minister in the Presbyterian Church USA, and most recently I served as associate pastor at Grace Covenant Presbyterian Church in Asheville, North Carolina. I hail from an interfaith family and feel especially motivated and enthusiastic to walk alongside interfaith families. Not only this, my spouse and I are raising our son as interfaith. Next, I want to introduce my beloved colleague and friend, Rabbi Debbie Reichman. Rabbi Debbie came to IFFP via a circuitous path in almost all senses of the word. Thinking she would be a lawyer, she spent a decade working in the health policy arena. Finding that this was a poor fit, she switched gears and began working at a university in its interfaith campus ministry department. It was in this environment that she found her calling to become a rabbi, specifically to serve interfaith families. Cantor Steve Marcus. Cantor Steve is Professor Emeritus of Electrical and Computer Engineering at the University of Maryland. He has been involved in cantorial and vocal studies with Hazan Dr. Ramos Tassat for the past 15 years and has served as a lay cantor in congregations in the DC area and in Austin, Texas. Steve and his wife raised their two sons as an interfaith family, and they have one grandson. Cantor Steve, we're so glad that you're with us this evening. Also, we want to give a thanks to Marcy Shagog. Marcy is IFFP's music director, and we thank her and all of the many talented and generous IFFP volunteers who pulled together the music for this evening's service. And finally, the one and only, Miranda Hovmeyer. Miranda is IFFP's program coordinator and is graciously providing tech services for us. She has a deep background and extensive experience with interfaith theology and is a great resource for IFFP. And now let's prepare our bodies, our hearts and minds for this evening's service.
We'll begin with a nigun, a wordless melody, to prepare us for Kol Nidre. Please join me when you get the hang of it. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai Kol Nidre Vesare Vacharame Vekoname Vechinuye Vekinusei, Vekinusei, Ushavut. Oh, Tindana, oh, Nistabana, oh, Liacharimna, Vediasana al nafshatana Yom Kippurim ze ad Yom Kippurim Haba Aleinu Letova Kol Icharad Navehon Kol Hon Yon Sharan Shvikin Shevitin Petelin Umevutalin Lasharirin Vilakayamin Nidrana la nidre ve'esarana la esare Ushavuatana la Shavuot Kol Nidre Service Vacharamei Vekonamei Vechinuyei Vekinusei Vekinusei Ushavut Oh, Dindana, oh, Nishtabana, oh, Diacharimna, Vediasana al nafshatana Miyom Kippurim ze ad Yom Kippurim Haba Aleinu Letova Kulhon Icharad Navehon Kulhon Yon Sharan shevitin, betelin umevutalin, lasheririn, vilakayamin, nidrana, nidrana, la nidre, ve'esarana la esare, ushivuatana, la Shavuot.
Good evening. This is Kol Nidre, which we've heard chanted beautifully and played wonderfully by Leo Mering. Kol Nidre, it's an ancient prayer. It's in Aramaic, not Hebrew. It's a formula that proactively annuls any personal or religious oaths or prohibitions made from an individual to God for the next year, so as to preemptively avoid the sin of breaking vows made to God. It's a legal ritual, not a religious one. And it was developed in early medieval times when Jews were persecuted and forced to make all sorts of promises. Reminder, Kol Nidre has no effect on vows or promises we make or break with other people. Those are valid, and if broken, forgiveness and absolution must be sought from those affected, not from God. Kol Nidre, all the weight of everything that we've vowed, excluded, failed, promised ourselves, swore we would, swore we wouldn't, cut ourselves off from last Yom Kippur to the one that will come next year. May it be for good, all of them. We free ourselves from them. From this moment, they are nothing. Our enmities, our limitations, our blame, they have no reality. They no longer exist. These vows were never vows. These oaths are not valid oaths. These bindings are released. Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha. And Adonai said, I have forgiven as you have asked.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehecheyanu v'kiyemanu v'hegianu lazman hazeh. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who has kept us alive and sustained us, enabled us to reach this moment. We turn to the Baruch Hu, the formal invitation to prayer. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Please join me. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed.
Let us say together this blessing for this evening. Praised are you, Adonai, Spirit of the world, who shares with humanity the rhythm of the day, bringing the twilight and opening the gates of the heavens. Your wisdom has set the changing of the times and the varying of the seasons. We marvel at the stars in the sky. You have created the day and the night, rolling away the light before the dark and the dark from before the light. The day is divided from night, that we may behold the changes of your world. Your enduring guidance leads us forever. Praised are you, Adonai, who brings forth the mantle of evening.
Ahavat Olam begins the theme of love, which continues through the Shema and the V'ahavta. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amchavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shokveinu v'kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha v'nizmak b'divrei Toratecha uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu v'orech yameinu uvahem negeh yomam v'layla v'avatcha al tasir mimenu li'olamim baruch ata Adonai Ohev Amo Israel.
From ever you have loved us into life, nourished our forebears with teachings of kindness. In the same way, you will help us find our path, and we will always rejoice as we come to understand your Torah and mitzvot. For they are our lives, the thread through all our days, guiding us day and night. Your love will never depart from us. Blessed are you who relates to us in love.
Please join me in singing the Shema, followed by the V'ahavta. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Vaed. Listen, Israel, the source of all our being, that source is one. Bless the majestic splendor that shines through space and time. We continue with the V'ahavta in Hebrew. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol avavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha uv'kshatam liot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha Uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. This first blessing after the Shema recalls and gives thanks for the exodus of the Israelites from Egypt. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osei fele, malchutcha ra'u vanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe. Ze'eli anu v'amru, please join me. Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. V'nehemar kifada Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miad chazak mimenu. Baruch ata Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
From Leviticus 16:30, listen. For on this day atonement shall be rendered unto you, to cleanse you of all your misdeeds, so that we become pure before the Creator.
The Chatzi Kaddish separates two central moments of the evening service, the recitation of the Shema and the Amidah. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah v'yamad ivrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayeichon uv'yomeichon uv'chayei dekol beit Yisrael. Please join me. Bagala Uvizman kariv veimru amen. Yesh me rabba mivarach le'alam ulal me almaya yidvarach. Yitvarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei Kedusha Prichu. Please join me. Le'ela u'le'ela mikol bichata v'shirata Ushbekata v'nechemata tamiran be'alma. Tamiran mi'alma v'imru amen.
Make the God name big, big and holy. Do it in this world, this creation sprung from consciousness, and bring some order to this. Do it fast, soon, in our lives, in the days ahead, in the life of the people we call home. Everybody join with me. May the name be blessed forever and ever. Yes, blessed. Blessed, whispered, sung out, shouted, honored this holy name. The name far beyond any song, poem, or comforting words we could ever speak. Everybody say, that's the truth.
Come and find the quiet center in the crowded life we lead. Find the room for hope to enter. Find the frame where we are free. Clear the chaos and the clutter. Clear our eyes that we can see all the things that really matter. Be at peace the sun, raising courage when we're shrinking, finding scope for faith begun.
The Amidah is the central prayer of every Jewish service, in which we find our quiet center. But there are special additional verses for the High Holy Days. In particular, after the first paragraph that you see on this slide, we'll be singing Zochrenu l'chaim, melech chafetz b'chaim, v'chodvenu b'sefer hachayim, l'mancha Elohim chayim, chanting the word chayim, life, over and over again, as we hope for a good life in the next year. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka ve'Elohei Rachel v'Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'konei hakol V'zocher Chazdei avod v'imahot Umevi goel livnei v'neihem leman shemo be'ahava. Zochreinu lechaim, please join me. Melech hafetz b'chaim, v'chodvenu b'sefer hachayim, lemancha Elohim chayim. Melech ozer u'moshiach u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei metim atah, Rav lehoshia. Please join me. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayei metim berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofei cholim, Umatir asurim. Umekayem emunato l'shenei afar. Micha mocha bal gevurot umido melach. Melech meimit umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua. Micha mocha el harachamim, Micha mocha el harachamim, Zocher yitzurav, Zocher yitzurav, Lechaim berachamim, V'nemanat al hachayot meitim, Baruch atah Adonai Mechayei Hametim.
We come to the silent Amidah. Amidah literally means standing, so you are welcome to do so, and refers to a series of blessings that we recite silently while we stand. You're welcome to use the text on the screen for personal reflection or to meditate on your own.
One of the final blessings of the Amidah, Modim Anachnu Lach, expresses gratitude, even in the most trying times, for miracles and wonders that are with us every day, evening, morning, and noon, if we only open our eyes and hearts to experience them. Modim Anachnu Lach, She'atau Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'Elohei Avoteinu, Le'olam Va'ed. Modim Anachnu Lach, She'atau Adonai Eloheinu, Ve'Elohei Imoteinu, Le'olam olam vaed. Tzur chayenu magen yishenu ata uledor vador. Nodelecha, nodelecha, unisaper tehilatecha. Modim anachnu lach, she'atahu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'Elohei avoteinu, le'olam va'ed, le'olam, le'olam va'ed.
We give thanks to you that you are the Lord our God, God of our ancestors forever and ever, rock of our lives and shield of our salvation from generation to generation. We give thanks to you and recount your praises for our lives that are entrusted in your hand, and for our souls that are in your safekeeping, and for your miracles that are with us every day, and for your wonders and good deeds that are with us at all times, evening, morning, and midday. Good one, your mercies never fail us. Compassionate one, your loving kindness never ceases. We always hope in you. We've come to a part of the service, it's called Vidui, which literally means confession. We'll do this evening and again tomorrow. It's a central part of Yom Kippur. These confessions, they are all in the plural. We are not saying that we individually have done this, but that we recognize that as community and as a society, these things most surely have happened and we should atone for them.
In the beautiful imagery of Ya'aleh, we see the cycle of the Yom Kippur day in each line, from evening to dawn to dusk. May our pleas, our cries, our songs, our suffering, our yearning ascend, arrive, be seen, and become closer to the divine during this Yom Kippur day. Ya'aleh tachanunenu me'erev ve'yavo shavatenu miboker ve'yera'eh rinunenu ve'yera'eh rinunenu ad arev. Ya'aleh koleinu me'erev ve'yavo tzidkatenu miboker ve'yera'eh pidyonenu ve'yera'eh pidyonenu ad arev.
May our supplication ascend at evening, our pleas arrive with the dawn, our song endure until dusk.
May our voices ascend at evening, our righteousness arrive with the dawn, our redemption endure until dusk.
May our affliction ascend at evening, our pardon arrive with the dawn, our groaning endure until dusk.
May our refuge ascend at evening, come for God's sake arriving with the dawn, our atonement enduring until dusk.
May our deliverance ascend at evening, our purification arrive with the dawn, our supplication endure until dusk.
May our remembrance ascend at evening, our gathering arrive with the dawn, our splendor endure until dusk.
May our knocking ascend at evening, our exultation arrive with the dawn, our petition endure until dusk.
May our sighing ascend at evening. May it come before you arrive with the dawn, and may its effect endure until dusk.
Yale dofkenu me'erev ve'yavog ileinu miboker ve'yera'e bakshatenu ve'yera'e bakshatenu ad arev. Yalen katenu me'erev ve'yavo elecha miboker ve'yera'e eleinu ve'yera'e eleinu ad arev.
Pardon us, our parent, for we have sinned. Forgive us, our ruler, for we have transgressed. For you, Adonai, are good and forgiving, and abounding in kindness to all who call upon you.
In Shema Kolenu, we ask God to hear our voices and our prayers. Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chuz v'rachem aleinu. Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chuz v'rachem aleinu. V'kabel berachamim uvratzon et tefillatenu hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashua. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva. Chadesh yameinu, Chadesh yameinu, Chadesh yameinu. Kekedem Shema Kolenu. This beloved piyut, or liturgical poem, Ki Anu Amecha, describes the intimate relationship between us and the divine, using a series of beautiful metaphors. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, silach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu, ki anu amecha ve'ata Eloheinu, anu vanecha ve'ata avinu, anu avadecha ve'ata Adonenu, anu kehalecha ve'ata chelkeinu, anu nachlatecha ve'ata goraleinu, Anu tzonecha v'ata ro'enu, anu charmecha v'ata notrenu, anu fiulatecha v'ata yotrenu, anu rayatecha v'ata dodenu, anu sekulatecha v'ata Eloheinu, anu amecha v'ata malkeinu, anu mamirecha v'ata mamirenu.
Now let us say together in English, for we are your people and you are our guide. We your children and you our parent. We are your helpers and you our inspiration. We your family and you our portion. We are your legacy and you our destiny. We your flock and you our shepherd. We are your vineyard and you our tender. We your accomplishment and you our creator. We are your spouse and you our beloved. We your treasure and you our closest friend. We are your people and you our protector. We your achievement and you our director.
Our God and God of our ancestors, hear our prayer. Do not ignore our plea. We are neither so insolent nor so obstinate as to claim that we are righteous, that we are without sin. We, like the generations before us, have surely sinned. This is an acrostic prayer listing out yet another list of where we have gone wrong. Steve will chant this in Hebrew and I will intersperse the English.
Ay 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 Ashamnu Bagadnu Kazalnu Dibarnu Dofi.
We have become desolate, we betrayed, we took what was not ours, we were hypocrites.
Ay 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 Hevinu v'hirshanu zadnu chamasnu tafalnu sheker.
We rationalized, we caused others to do wrong, we deliberately did wrong. We let ends justify means. We became accustomed to dishonesty.
Ay 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 Yatznu ra kizavnu latznu maradnu niatznu zararnu avinu pashanu zararnu kishinu oref.
We gave ignorant advice. We did not keep promises. We were contemptuous. We preferred transgression. We fostered anger. We looked the other way. We let impulses rule us. We had flexible ethics. We caused pain. We chose denial.
Ay 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 Rashanu shichadnu tiavnu tainu titanu.
We were violent. We were immoral. We were complicit in terrible acts. We did not learn from mistakes. We led others to mistakes.
Where have we missed the mark? As a society, as a community, as individuals. Stop and think for a moment. We all fall short. Too often we try to go it alone. We point fingers. We forget the teachings of our ancestors. Too often we forget our need for one another and our need for the one who loves us so. Take an honest, vulnerable breath and let us ask ourselves this. In what ways this year, even this week, could we have been kinder, more generous, more just? When could we have extended empathy and forgiveness instead of shielded ourselves with feelings of judgment and resentment? When did we let frustration and fear dictate our actions and push patience and trust to the wayside? When did we close ourselves off to the experiences of another instead of take a moment to put ourselves in their shoes? When did we close our ears to Adonai's urging or to that good voice deep inside? When we could have listened harder, when we could have dared to follow. During this year of pandemic, let us with one another breathe again and ask ourselves, when have we forgotten to feel gratitude for the gift of human connection, be it virtual or in person? When have we forgotten the sacredness of a stranger, the value of a friend, whether they are right beside us, just outside the door, or across the world? When have we forgotten the healing power of a hi, how are you? Or I miss you, or I forgive you, or I'm holding you close in my heart? When have we forgotten that each of us belongs to each other and each of us is an essential partner in the healing of our broken world? May we recognize that we miss the mark again and again every day, and may we commit this year to finding that mark that we can stand tall upon once again, together.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha.
For our fault in accustoming ourselves to negative patterns, and for our fault in being judgmental, for our fault in confusing love and lust, and for our fault in not taking care of our bodies, for our fault in desacralizing the sacred, and for our fault in keeping relationships superficial, for our fault of arrogance and vanity, and for our fault in being unforgiving, for our fault in denying our flaws, and for our fault in being overly defensive, for our fault in despairing, and for our fault by frivolity at dreadful times, for our fault in complaining and kvetching, and for our fault in being unappreciative.
Please join me. Ve'al kulam Eloha selichot selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu ve'al kulam Eloha selichot selach lanu mechalanu selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu. For each of these misdeeds, we seek this day release, forgiving and forgetting, coming back now to our core.
For our fault through lack of courage, and for our fault through loss of faith, for our fault in belittling and slandering, and for our fault in using violence, for our fault in lack of empathy and compassion, and for our fault in overreacting with anger, for our fault in repeating gossip, and for our fault in listening to gossip, for our fault in false oaths, and for our fault in breaking promises, for our fault in condemning in our children the faults we tolerate in ourselves, and for our fault in condemning in our parents the faults we tolerate in ourselves, for our fault in begrudging others' happiness, and for our fault in withholding love and support.
Ve'al kulam Eloha selichot selach lanu mechalanu kapelanu ve'al kulam Eloha selichot selach lanu mechalanu selach lanu mechalanu kapelanu. For each of these misdeeds, we seek this day release, forgiving and forgetting, coming back now to our core.
For our fault in not seeing the spark of divinity within each person we meet, and for our fault in not seeing the spark of divinity within ourselves. For talking when we should be doing, and for intending but not carrying out, for using cynicism as excuse for inaction, and for losing hope, for our fault of thoughtlessly damaging the life of our planet, and for the sin of war, for the sin of aggressive war, and for our fault in accepting and appeasing aggressors, for the sin of building ever more horrifying weapons, and for the sin of silence and indifference.
Ve'al kulam Eloha selichot selach lanu mechalanu kapelanu ve'al kulam Eloha selichot selach lanu mechalanu selach lanu mechalanu kapelanu. For each of these misdeeds, we seek this day release, forgiving and forgetting, coming back now to our core.
Yehiyu leratzon imrei fi vehigayon libi lifanecha. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart reflect my love before you.
Oh, say shalom b'romav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, v'yal kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. Yaseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu v'Yakol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu v'Yakol Yisrael. Say Shalom Bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu v'Yakol Yisrael. V'Imru, Imru, Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu v'Yakol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu v'Yakol Yisrael.
Good evening. Thank you for being here today with us this evening. I'm sharing a few words about something that has been on my mind. I watched in horror on TV the mob scenes at Kabul's airport a few weeks ago. I was horrified. My secondary reaction, though, was somewhat unexpected. I was really angry with myself. Refugee crises are endemic, persistent, and apparently unending. But it took this high drama to make me focus on it. In this season of atonement, that realization was a bit of a gut punch. Refugees are and have been a serious issue for all of humanity, for all of human history. The Hebrew Bible takes for granted the assumption that a family, a tribe, or a nation may have to pick up and leave at any given moment. The story of Genesis ends with God banishing Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden. That theme is revisited throughout the Torah. In fact, most of the stories wouldn't have happened if people could have stayed in one place for any extended period of time. This isn't unique to the Torah or to the history of the Jewish people. It has certainly molded the Jewish tradition and culture, having been oppressed and kicked out at some point from every country in Europe. But the story of the refugees transcends geography, nationality, religion, and culture. Which is why almost all of the world's major religions have something to say about how we treat the stranger in our midst. Bear with me as I run through this. In Judaism, the Torah teaches, "The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as one of your citizens. You shall love them as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt." This commandment is repeated no less than 36 times. In Christianity, the Gospel of Matthew narrates the story of Jesus, telling his followers that when they fed the hungry, gave drink to the thirsty, welcomed the stranger, clothed the naked, visited the sick and those in prison, they were doing it to him. When they failed to do those things, they failed to serve him. The Quran, the Muslim holy book, deals specifically with refugees, teaching that protection must be granted to those that seek it, and that people must follow agreements and treaties concerning the rights of refugees. In Buddhism, the teachings are all aimed at liberating sentient beings from suffering, an all-encompassing directive that per se includes refugees. And in Hindu cultures, community and interdependence are of greater importance than individualism and autonomy, implying a collective responsibility. So then, if most of the world's religions and cultures teach compassion and hospitality, why is this a forever problem? And what, if anything, is the forever solution? For a start, the answer is not religion. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees stated the following in a policy brief. Religion should neither be viewed as the ultimate problem nor the ultimate solution in displacement situations. There is a tendency to ascribe agency to religion rather than seeing people as agents. Religion itself does not have agency. it is people who act on the basis of different beliefs, identities, and interpretation of religious principles. So the problem and the solution is rooted in individuals, regardless of religion and in spite of it. It's people, individuals, it's us. Who are the refugees? Start with a blank slate and imagine what it might take for you to decide to leave your home. Most humans want to stay where they have roots, surrounded by familiar people, familiar languages, and familiar customs. It takes a really bad situation for someone to decide to give all of that up. Some don't get to decide for themselves, being expelled from some place or not to enter another. And some take all the pressure they can handle, pressures of violence to person and property, pressures of scarcities, pressures of insurmountable inequities, and they find no other means to alleviate it. Some see the desperation of their families and wonder if there isn't someplace else where they can work enough at least to feed and clothe them. The global numbers are staggering. There are tens of millions of refugees from all over the world, and 40% of them are children. There are over 4 million stateless people. They have no place to go. They have no place they're from. As the UNHCR stated, religion is not the problem or the solution, but religious beliefs and practitioners can help. We, can care for the refugees among us. IFFP's Tikkun Olam group on immigrant and refugee assistance does this. Can all join them. We, can educate ourselves on the underlying causes. Most refugees are not looking for an easy ride. They're looking for an even break, and they would stay home if they could. We, can examine policies and laws and work within the system to change them. We, can look at our own predispositions and prejudices. We can identify them, and we can work to overcome them. There is a reason that every religion, or at least most of them, preach kindness and compassion to strangers. Being forced to leave one's home is a historical truth and a possible future for all cultures and nations. When it is personal, as with many things, it is tragic. When it is at arm's length, described as a statistic, as someone else's problem, it's sad, but we can tuck that away among the many things that there are to be sad about. So what to do? It is doubtless hard to find a way to lower all the drawbridges and open all the gates. There's a real fear of lack of resources. There's a real fear of uncontrollable change to societies. It's a real fear of danger. But, always but, as humans who share the world and who ultimately know the insecurity of life, can we not find ways to help? You pick who, and how, and where, and when, and why. Religion can offer suggestions and guidance, but truly, the choices are yours. Scholars have spent millennia trying to learn from the story of Adam and Eve. The best insight I know comes from Elie Wiesel. He said, God gave Adam a secret, and that secret was not how to begin, but how to begin again. Let's all try to find a way to help someone else to begin again, or even better, find a way that they don't have to. Thank you.
Aleinu was originally composed for the Malchuyot section of the Rosh Hashanah service just after the Torah service. It has, since the Middle Ages, however, become a prayer which is part of the conclusion of every Ashkenazic Jewish service. Please join me. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, lateit gedula liotze breshit, shelo asanu kegoye aratot, velo samanu kemishpachot hadama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, Vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, vanachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. V'nehemar v'hayad Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz. Please join me. Bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
The Mourner's Kaddish, also in Aramaic, and you've noticed I point this out every time to highlight the fact that Aramaic was the language of the people. This is a prayer. All our prayers that are in Aramaic are meant to be understood and shared. And this one can only be said in community. And so we hold those in mourning and those who have passed on in our hearts and in our arms, metaphorically and literally if we can. Join me. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei, be'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kariv, be'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivorach le'olam umei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shmei kudisha, brichu, le'ela u'le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. Everything becomes fuller and increases in holiness here in this intentionally created world. May we and everyone around us be able to see this every day of our lives, and may we see it soon. Amen. May this holiness, whatever we name it, be blessed in this world and in any other world that might be. Holiness is growing, it is transcendent, it is wonderful. It is always reaching higher, it goes far beyond any prayer or praise or comfort that can be offered in any world. Amen. May a heavenly peace come into our lives and those of all people. Amen. May the harmony that prevails in the heavens guide us and all people to peace. And let us all say, Amen. It's my pleasure at this time to introduce Heidi Anderson, a board member this year and past president, to share some thoughts on Kol Nidre and IFFP.
Am I muted? Can you hear me? I'm good.
You're good.
Okay.
You're good. We can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Steve. Because there's hard. There's no one out there. It's weird. So thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, off the screen, Miranda. And oh my, thank you, Leo. Kol Nidre will never sound the same to me after hearing Leo play that. Wow. So I'm Heidi Anderson, and I'm wearing my IFFP shirt tonight. I'm here with my husband, John, whose shoulder you might be able to see, and my our 13-year-old son, Josh, who is in 8th grade. And we've been members since 2015. I'm also on the IFFP care team. And as Rabbi mentioned, I am a board member. I'm in my 4th year as board member. So if you were with us for Rosh Hashanah or any past high holiday services, you've heard the board ask for your financial support. And yes, we do absolutely need those dollars. There is a link in the chat, or you can mail a check to the address on our website at iffp.org. However, my ask today is for a different kind of support. You. We need you. You, as volunteers, make the community. Now in our 26th year, I would venture to say that most of our success is due to volunteers. And there are so many different ways to be a part of IFFP. Cue the song, Hokey Pokey. Remember, you put your whole self in, you put your whole self out, you put your whole self in and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Obviously, we're not asking for your whole self. We'd just be happy with your left arm, or maybe your right knee, or maybe even your heart, because that is what it's all about. So you can call or text or email me. Let's talk about how you would like to volunteer this year. My contact info is in the chat, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. And if you are fasting, may you have an easy, reflective fast. Shana Tova.
Eli, Shelo Yigamer Liolam, Hakol V'Hayom, Rishru Shel Hamayim, Barak Hashamayim, Tefilat Hadam, Hakol V'Hayom, Rishru Shel Hamayim, Barak Hashamayim, Tefilat Hadam. O Lord my God, I pray that these never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. May you have an easy fast if you're fasting. May we see you all tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. The link for the children's service is in the chat. It's at 1 p.m. tomorrow. And we do hope that all is well with you and this Yom Kippur is meaningful. Thank you so much for joining us.